Our next speaker is an author of the book, How Money Became Dangerous. He is a co-founder of Riverwood Capital. He has also had 20 years experience in private equity, as well as 20 years experience in investment banking. So please help me give a warm Menger welcome to Chris Varelas.
Okay, I want to start by saying I love questions. Please interrupt me. I want to be interrupted. Say more, explain, disagree. I have a thought. I give 100 presentations a year or so. They're never the same, ever. I like it to be organic. I like to ask questions. So please, engage and do the like. Speaking of organic, I have to comment on the last speaker. So I want to add a few things to his list of advice, disagree with a few things, and I'd love to just get your thoughts along the way. So 3 things that I wish I had known or someone had told me. Number 1, particularly for this generation, run to experience irrespective of outcome. So when you evaluate where to go to the place that you're going to say, wow, there's a lot of tension there, but I'm going to learn a lot, I'm going to see a lot, and when you're young, that's the time to take risk. And do not make the decision based on how certain I am of the outcome. Because if you're certain of the outcome, I guarantee you're capping your upside and you're limiting the things you can learn. It's probably like the most important thing. Take risk. Next, happiness. The most important thing that people don't know anything about, how to get it, what it is. So I'm going to ask you, I'm not even going to ask you to say it out loud, but I want you to think about it for a moment. What is happiness? What is it? Do you think you have a good definition of it?
I would say, go ahead.
Tom, give me your
absence of misery.
Absence of great. I will give you generously a C-. Okay, who else? Yep. Do better.
The person with the most interesting thoughts.
Ooh, I like that. I'm going to give B.
How about this?
Yes.
The state of being dependent on outward circumstances.
State of being based on outward I see where you're going. I like it.
I'm going because I would compare it with joy.
Yeah, no, I like where you're going. I'm not going to grade that one because I like the direction. Yes, I love we're getting answers.
For me, it's like being content, like a state without need.
Okay, how do you get to content though? Like, what does content
All my
mean?
needs are fulfilled.
So needs. It's all about if you get your needs, you're happy.
I am not without in that moment, so I'm happy.
Okay.
What about a state like actually separate from your external, influences, right? Like something derived from the inside. Like if you are needing a life full of happiness, it's coming from within. And I guess that's what to contented.
The last one, and I'm going to give you the answer.
For me, it's being in a state of creation, not survival.
Ooh, creation. That's really good. That's really good. And I think when I give you what I think is the best definition of happiness, it's very close to creation. Right? It's very close. So I'm going to give you the oldest answer ever provided, which probably shaped Western civilization, which is Aristotle. I'm just going to give you the quick components to it. First off, it's an activity, not a goal. Right? So it's not the end of the road, it's the actual journey itself. Now, we incorporate that into saying it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game, but it's very hard to live it. People are not focused on the activity, they're focused on the goal, and they say when they get there, no, it's not the goal, it's the activity. Second, it has to be pushing you to your potential. If you have the potential to do X, you're only going to be happy if you're close to X. If you're at half of X, like playing tennis with your little sister and beating her the whole time, it's not enjoyable. But playing with someone at your level who's pushing the most of you out of you when you're playing the tennis, that's when you're most happy and content. And it's usually done with other people. And it's most often consistent with some unique skill that you have. We all have a unique skill. So you're happy when you're in an activity where you're being pushed to your full potential, where you're doing it with other people, and it's usually using a unique skill that you have. You often hear that referred to as flow state, right? When you're in flow state, you're not thinking about time, you're not thinking about end goal, you're not thinking about status, you're not thinking about recognition, you're not thinking about how much you're gonna make, you're not thinking about what, you're just in that moment of flow. Third is the network. Here's where I'm gonna start like pushing back against what you heard. So I want to begin by, I usually wouldn't, but I sort of want to begin by name dropping. I know, I'm just kidding. Many of the most important people in the world, most powerful people, tell me often, I have the greatest network they've ever come across. Like bar none, the greatest network, exposure to all aspects of industry, philanthropy, science, you name it. How do you do it? And I learned these lessons early, and they were some of the most valuable things told me. You may not know who he is, but Michael Ovitz, who was created CAA, the talent agency, said create a list of people. He said 100 people. When you meet someone and you've had an interaction with them, put their name on the list and create the list, and every day call a couple of them or reach out to them. Now you can't, I still call people because it's powerfully, it's interestingly where no one, in a world where no one calls anyone, calling someone, very powerful. They might be a little off put at first, like who's calling me? But then they get in a conversation, sometimes it's the only conversation they have that day. And if you call a few people every day and you work through the list, the next time you call them, when you need them, won't be the first time since you saw them. And you keep that connectivity, very, very powerful. Next thing is, when you meet with people, always have it be about the other person. Go into a meeting and ask yourself, why is this gonna be good for that person? How do I make it good for that person? Like right now, I'm thinking, how do I talk to all of you in a way where you're gonna say, that was a really good use of time, I got a ton out of it. And my goal, as crazy as it is for you to look at what I'm about to say in the next however minutes and say, that changed my life. How about that for aspirational? Like that is the hurdle that I have for this conversation, where you're gonna look back in 20 years and say, God, I don't remember his name, doesn't really matter. Like when I was in that thing, like he told me that thing and it like changed well. So go into every meeting thinking, what do you need? How do I help you? I guarantee you your network will grow from that. A little tricky thing that I learned during COVID, which is amazingly powerful, is during COVID, when I lived in Silicon Valley, and the top epidemiologist in the world lived 1 mile from me, Stanford University. And they were all canceled because of their stated beliefs on COVID policy. Scott Atlas, Bhattacharya, Ioannidis, they're all canceled because they were putting out these outrageous claims. We shouldn't do lockdown. We shouldn't shut schools. We should use these therapeutics that have no ivermectin, like canceled. Social distancing doesn't work. So they were canceled. I called them. I literally called them and said, I want to meet, I want to buy you dinner. And they were like, no one was calling them to take them out to dinner. They were literally ostracized by the entire town of Palo Alto, the wives, who they were. So they were pariahs. I called them and said, I'm buying you dinner. They were like, well, no one else is calling us buying me dinner. So I buy them dinner. I learned an unbelievable amount during COVID. This is April of 2020. I went through COVID with no fear. I knew the mortality rate. I knew who was at risk. Basically, I knew then everything we know now. But the most important thing is, they will never forget you. Where is Jay Bhattacharya today? Does anyone know his job? He's head of the NIH. What's Macary's job now? Head of the FDA. And now they're in power and everybody wants to meet them, talk to them. I can tell you one person they'll meet with. The person who was the only one who called them and said, hang in there, it seems like the end of the world now. And those are a network relationship that you will have forever. So when you see the whole world turning on somebody, sometimes they deserve it, so you got to be careful. You're not calling Jeffrey Epstein saying, I want to buy you dinner, right? I mean, there are people that are canceled, but if there are people that you realize are being canceled for political reasons, those are great people to run to. The most important quality, these are the two I'm going to push back on. The most important quality was reliability. That is wrong. There's something more important than reliability. And this is true for your whole life. Likability. If you're likable, you will go far. If you're reliable and unlikable, you will not. If you're likable but sort of reliable, you will, right? Likability is by far, and it's the one thing nobody trains you for, tells you how to do. They just think you're likable or you're not. That's not true. What can you do to be more likable? What makes you like someone? Yes?
People that smile.
Smile, great one.
To ask them about how they're doing.
Ask questions, awesome.
Enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic.
Be yourself.
Authenticity. You guys are great. That is the path to likability. I will say optimism, upbeat, not too upbeat that you look like you don't get it, right? If you're too optimistic and too positive, people think you're naive. So you got to do that, and you got to be consistent, right? So be consistently, like if you were weather, you would be mostly sunny would be your personality, right? It's not like full sunny, but like mostly sunny, right? Ask questions, be authentic, be concerned, listen, feedback, whatever. If you're likable, you will got a huge step up. People work with people they like, okay? The us versus them. I found Michael's approach to life, frankly, fairly caustic, right? I found it fairly like tension-oriented and abrasive. Like I'm much more of a, I want to create a connection where I'm drawing us together, not having you be on your toes, like, oh, where is he going to go and whatever. So for me, it's like, I want to be likable, right? I want you to come in. So the us versus them, this strategy is much better. You're in a room, and by the way, most of my life, I'm the them. I love being the them. So I'm in organizations where I'm the them. So I go into a room, I am the 1 in the 100 that believes what I believe, right? Other 99, again. It's much better to say, you know, I'm with you. I'm starting to have doubts. I'm starting to question. I'm starting to wonder. Are you really 100% certain that climate change is going to end the world in 10 years? Are you really certain that it's a good idea to have permanent like operations on children? Like, sure, like they might not regret that. You know, are you sure that running these huge deficits to fund whatever, like, aren't you a little concerned, right? It's much different if you say, I disagree with you, you're wrong. But if you look like you're one of them and you're starting to like drift from the herd, they will try to pull you back in, right? And then all of a sudden you're having a debate and you're like, oh wow, you're going back and forth. They're having a real conversation. That's a much more effective, better us versus them. Anyway, I'll pause there before I go on to commenting on our next speaker, which I agree with 100%. I just want to add a few comments. Any questions on Advice to young people. Yes.
If you were our age, not that you're far off, but what would you focus on?
He is.
Again,
What would you mean like career-wise?
in life, well, if you were, place yourself back when you're 20 years old, what would you make sure to focus on with the perspective you have now?
Yeah, I would, what I would do is, and I'm happy to do a run around the world, I would say where's the tension points in the world right now? Like where is the value creation happening? Where are the tectonic plates coming together that's going to form the new Earth, right? Like what's coming together? And so right now it's health science for sure. Like we're now at that place where the genome mapping, all of that is starting to create real business, which when you combine with AI is also doing this. So health science, there's going to be a lot of innovation in health science. Like I would run to there, right? The tension between China and the United States, which I'll talk about in a bit. Like how do you move that to a collaborative, like work on either what's going to happen when the fallout happens, how do you position, whatever. Like that's a fun and interesting place to go if you want to do geopolitics. How do you create a new, how do you solve the issue of the disintermediation of humanity from life, right? All of technology is basically pulling humans out. So now we're more disconnected. The loneliness the loneliness factor. How do you think about the connectivity of humans? Like, so I would just say, and then I would ask the question, which one of these is most interesting to me? Maybe fits my emerging skill sets and go there. That would be my, like run to tension points. Because something's gonna happen, and do not do something because it's a proven path. Those people are never happy 40 years later, right? It's like, okay, what do I know? Doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. Okay, I'll be a lawyer. I'll be a doctor. I'll be an Indian chief. Like, that it's clear, but it's not. I always joke with my daughter when she was young, don't worry about your job. It doesn't exist yet, right? Like the job you have, you can't even like name it. And interestingly, she does a job that didn't exist when she asked me the question for the first time. So not today. Anything else?
Quick follow-up to that.
Yeah.
Would be, in all of your years looking back, both professionally and managing personal relationships and all of it, what has surprised you the most?
Ooh, what surprised me the most? The thing that surprised me the most is how, and I've worked in finance my whole life, how numbers do not matter. They don't matter. Numbers don't matter. Logic doesn't matter. Reason doesn't matter. All that matters is the emotion. Like when I'm raising money, I could go in and go blah, 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 but if I did it with like enthusiasm, excitement, and they feel like the energy of like, wow, he's excited about this investment, they'll invest. If I went in and talked in a monotone, whatever, and gave them logical proof that I had a machine that could turn dimes into dollars, guaranteed, they wouldn't invest. Right? So what surprised me the most is how humans are, we all know they were driven by emotion, but what's surprising the most is the degree to which they've been driven by emotion, right? I'm almost like at 100% that.
You know what I remember from The Economist, back when it still existed? Emotion has more to do with market behavior than any sober calculation of rational man. And that stuck with me.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. That's why I don't like trading markets, because you're not trading facts. You're just trading the changing emotions of, I've worked in every part of finance there is, you can't name, and I saved hedge funds for last for a reason. I don't want to be figuring out the marginal analysis factoring into emotion, right? There's only one day trader I talk to regularly. He's sitting over there. He's the only one I talk to regularly, which has been very valuable to me. But it's not like how I want to, spend my life. Yes.
What do you think a lot of young people waste time thinking about spending?
Ooh. It's easier for me to answer the question of what do they spend good time thinking about. It scares me, it's almost 100%. Like what really bothers me about what the world is doing to you is how we are selling you fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Constant fear. Unfortunately, social media platforms are built on status anxiety. That is the business model. I'm going to make you uncomfortable, and you're going to be addicted to my product. You're going to want to excel at your status. So we're selling you status anxiety all day long. We're selling you on the world is a terrible place all day long. We're selling you on there's no future. We're selling you on you want freedom. You should trade wisdom and knowledge for convenience all day long. You're making the wisdom, intuition to convenience trade-off all day long, and we make it so easy for you. And that's not a good life. And so I would say, how much of your day is spent worried about status, fear, uncertainty, doubt? How often are you running towards convenience? Like I said, run to experience, don't run to convenience. I think that's most of, sadly, a young person's life. Yes, let's go with the other young person there.
If you were going to start over again, so you just graduated from Wharton Business School, what part of the industry would you recommend these young people get into? What are three good industries in that? Because you were in M&A.
Yes, M&A.
And finance, which was, it troughed at that time, correct?
Yeah, I would say, there's so many things to say here. I was lucky, just to be completely transparent, I didn't deserve my job on Wall Street, and the odds were I wasn't going to survive. And so in order to survive, I had to go to the place that was desperate for people, which is the same way as saying I was a contrarian, but I wasn't a contrarian by choice, I was a contrarian by desperation. So I went into M&A when people thought M&A was dead for mergers and acquisitions, when everyone thought M&A after the, dating myself, in the late 80s, once the corporate raider boom went away and died, everyone thought M&A was dead. And so no one at my investment bank wanted M&A, and I'll go like, I'll take it, right? So I went, and it turned out to be, and that's been true for a while, until I could learn and figure out the system and how it worked. So being a contrarian into a business or a job that's not going away is a really good move. Like advisory was not going to go, and like in retrospect, it's like M&A was not going to go away. Like, everyone says that prostitution is the oldest profession. It's not. It's the second oldest profession because you had to negotiate a price first, right? And so as a result, like that job is not going away, right? And then the other thing I would say is the tension. Like go where the world. If you go to the biggest problem the world faces, there's a need, and people are fearful, right? It's like, interestingly, it's a little bit of a contrarian move at that people avoid risk, so they're not going to the place where the world is churning. But you go there, if you trust your abilities to figure it out, right? You have to assume, and I think everyone here can make decisions like, I'm smarter than the average bear, I'm more focused than the average bear. I'm more diligent. Like, I will figure out how to win in a volatile environment. That would be my advice. Yes.
Something you said, just one thought that really resonated with me was when you said, how often are we running toward convenience and spend worrying about fear and doubt? And something that I've been thinking about recently that I try to frame my decisions are, I ask myself if my actions are based on fear or an unconditional love for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very similar to what you said, and that really resonates with me a lot.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. I want to add a causality addendum to you. If you run to challenge and you meet the challenge, you will love yourself more. And then you will love to run to more challenge, and hopefully you create a virtuous cycle. Like, why do you love yourself? Like, what's going to get you to love yourself, right? It's not going to be running away. It's not going to be convenience, right? It's going to be, wow, I took on a challenge. I pushed myself to my potential. I probably was doing it with the help of other people, and wow, that collaboration was really, like when you talk to founders, what was the greatest period? It was like, oh, early when we were building and we didn't know the outcome, there was uncertainty, we had to push ourselves to a real limit, we were working, like, oh my God, those are the happiest days of my life, right? Why were those the happiest days of their life, right? Because they were executing on Aristotle, they just didn't know what that meant. All right, anything else? Okay.
What skill or habit do you think will pay off long term?
God, I so want to say one thing, but I got to come up with something better.
What would that one thing be?
Because it's the thing no one does anymore, and that's reading. Like reading, and if you're male, sorry, I'm going to make a sexist comment, but the data is so overwhelming. Read fiction, right? Men don't read fiction. They gotta they gotta learn shit. But they can't go into the world of imagination. And the beauty of fiction is you're inside someone's head as they're grappling with challenges. Yes?
Do you have a favorite fiction author?
Yeah, I am a sucker for the Russians. Dostoevsky, I love them all. Dostoevsky is like, every human problem in the history of man is in the brothers Karamazov,
Yeah.
right? Like, just read one book and you got everything the brothers get. But I love Chekhov because of his use of writing. And I have this theory that beauty comes from pain.
Yeah.
Because you need pain to really create, and no one suffered more than the Russians, and that's why their literature is so amazing. So so reading is one. I would say, this has got an extrovert-introvert challenge to it, but I would be like reaching out to people and connecting with people with no purpose. Like, don't do things like, oh, are they going to be in my network? Am I going to learn something? Are they valuable? Like, get rid of the metric of, oh, I'm going to talk to you because you're going to help me, right? That's like learn everything you can from as many. God, this list is so long, I don't even know which one to pick. All right. Let's go to the early presentation. First of all, thank you for that run through history. So even though I've lived and I talk about history of money all the time, I'm like, oh God, this is such a good, reset. I love the 10 billion, 60 billion. I'm gonna repeat 5 things that I heard today in the next week at least. I just wanna talk about current day. So you sort of have the building block. So reserve currency, US. Let's take a US centric. Do we like the reserve currency? Do we like being the reserve currency? Yes.
Well, it benefits us.
And how's it
That's
benefit?
why we move here.
And why does it benefit us? We got a really good answer earlier. What was it? We get to export what?
Inflation.
Inflation, right? So we get all this stuff from all over the world and we send them these pieces of paper and go, thank you. Right? I mean, like, we literally get to trade paper for stuff, right? It's pretty amazing trade. I mean, it's probably the greatest trade in the history of humanity, right? Paper for stuff, right? To have the reserve currency, though, you need two monopolies. Governments have to have two monopolies. What are the two monopolies they have to have? They have to have a monopoly on what and what? They have to have a monopoly on?
Violence.
Violence, yes. They have to have a monopoly on money, and they have to have a monopoly on violence. And who's got the monopoly on money and the monopoly on violence at the current moment? The United States of America, right? We got the currency and we got the military. Didn't look so good a couple years ago, but with two tiny little, they are tiny, I'm gonna say it, two tiny little missions that took a total of a few hours, involved a few hundred people with 0 casualties. The bombing of Iran and the taking out of the Venezuelan leader completely reset the landscape. And the way it was done in Venezuela, I don't know if you heard the stories about what happened. Have you heard what happened and like how it was done? The sonic boom, taking out, like, scaring the crap out of everybody, right? Completely reset the military mind. So we have a monopoly on violence, monopoly on money. We get to send little pieces of paper. We get stuff back, right? That's how the trade works. Two things have happened, a lot of things have happened, but two things in particular have put a huge dent in our reserve currency status. Can anyone guess what those two
Sanctions on Russia.
Yes, and why?
Sad.
And
Well,
why?
because they got to create a whole new economy
Yeah.
with their and new alliances.
The other countries won't trust us.
Yeah, and other countries won't trust us. So the freezing of, not the freezing of assets, but the you can't use the payment system.
Yeah.
Yeah, SWIFT, basically shutting down SWIFT access. People are like, oh my God, they can do that to us. That's what inspired the BRICS. What was the other huge dent on the reserve currency? It's happened over the last 5 years. I'll just say it. Our spending under COVID. Because our government spending went from bad to hypercharged spending. So all of a sudden you're starting to say, like, oh wow, the debt levels are getting a little high. So if you look at history, when Professor mentioned that our debt exceeds GDP, in history when debt gets to 160% of GDP, it's over, right? For us, it's going to be higher than 160% because the reserve currency, it's unique factors, but no one knows where that number is. And the question is, why? Like, why do we do this? And the second is there anything that's going to be reverse it? I mean, right now it feels like it's not a question of will we break the system, it's just when. Could be 30 years from now. Everyone asks when. I'm like, I don't know, but we're gonna find out, right? We are gonna find out, and it's gonna be messy. And the beauty of money is in the who, what, where, why, when, right? The big 5 questions. If you look at every industry, most of them you get paid for that. How does it work, right? Finance is one of the only professions you get paid for the when. You can know nothing, but if you get the timing right of something, you're a billionaire, right? You can know everything and get the time room and be bankrupt, right? You're like, okay, if you want to know the answer to any one question in finance, you're picking the when. No other industry you're picking the when, right? Let's see, and then why is it a bad thing to be the reserve currency? Because J.D. Vance just gave a long speech in Europe, just a year ago now, a little under a year, saying the reserve currency isn't great. And when you study history, which when he said it, I was a big reserve, like, we never got the reserve currency, and then J.D. Vance gives that speech in Europe, and you're like, oh, okay. Then I can't help myself. I go down the rabbit hole. Let's study the history of reserve currencies. And when you do it, it turns out at the end, it's actually a really mixed bag. And why is it a mixed bag at the end?
So they only last a short period.
Yeah, but why? Like, what happens near the end?
Well, just historically, empires always fall.
Yeah, they fall, right? But why? Let's say you haven't fallen yet, and you have the reserve currency. So at the end of the British reserve currency, the Dutch reserve currency, if you look at all the historical reserve currencies, the barley reserve currency.
Maybe we fall into the trap of spending too much and not focusing on what's real.
Yeah, that's one of the three, right? It's like, it's beyond the temptation of any politician, particularly the leaders, to not abuse it, right? So you're going to abuse it. That's one. I'll just fill in the others. The other is you start producing certain things and stop producing others. So you become a very finance-oriented economy, right? So look at the percent of our GDP that's in the business of money. It's large, right? Like the business, I mean, I'm in it, like a bunch of you are gonna be in it. Like it becomes a really big, you could argue, I'm not gonna say unhealthy, because I think that's unfair, but like relative to making something, and I'm not one of these, I think the whole manufacturing thing is crazy, but whatever, like that's way, that's so 80s, like bringing back manufacturing jobs, that's like a nostalgia that should go away. And then the third is it sort of really has the focus of society beyond money, right? The social core becomes a money-oriented social core. So it's not like the, it's not, what do you want your society to be remembered for? 25% of the people taking rent from other people for managing their money, right? Like, I don't know. Even though that's my life, I don't really feel like that's the society that you want to. Anyway, those are the things I would add to today. It's also, actually one more thing. It's going to be the question, like today's discussion is the question, right? It is the question. When you say what is the biggest challenge facing this generation, it's not climate change, it's not China. I would say it's not even AI. It is how are we going to deal with a demographic challenge and our inability to financially navigate this transition, right? Anyone know the story of the ant and the grasshopper? I was talking to Bruce earlier about it. Pretty sure not a lot of that. Okay. Anyone know the ant and grasshopper fable? Aesop's fable? If you read more, maybe. No, I'm sorry. It's a very short fable from Aesop, ancient Greek storyteller. And it's a story of an ant and a grasshopper. The ant is working all summer saving up for winter, right? And the grasshopper's playing its, tune all summer, having a great time. And the ant's like, grasshopper, you got to prepare for winter. And the grasshopper's like, shut up. Don't be such a stick in the mud. And the ant's like, I'm worried about you. You're not going to be ready for winter. And the grasshopper's like, shut up, you old, don't be such a pain. Winter comes, and the grasshopper's freezing, knocks on the ant's door and says, let me in. And the ant says, I told you to prepare. So anyway, Thomas Sowell, who I know you know, wrote an alternative ending. And his alternative ending is one of the other ants says to the ant, no, come on, we got to take care of him. Let him in. It's like, all right, we'll let him in. So they let in the grasshopper. They take care of the grasshopper. Next summer, what do you think happens? some of the ants are like, why should I work? I'm just gonna like have a good time, right? You can take care of me too. You take care of the grasshopper, you can take care of me. So then the next winter, less ants are working. You know, some ants keep working because they know, like, whatever. And then ultimately, like, all the ants are like, I'm not gonna do any work. I have others to take care of me. And the last two words are what?
I told you so.
Winter came. Right? Winter came. And they had nothing, right? So we're in a world where, you know, I ask a question, how big should the social safety net be? Who should it be for? How deep? How long? Do you include immigrants, right? How much do we invest in old people who are producing nothing at the expense of investing in young people who are our future, right? Like, how do we do that in a demographic that's going upside down? I mean, for the first time in the world history, are we gonna have so many people living so long, producing nothing, expecting others to take care of them? All right. How we get through that, I think, is a fascinating question. And where is it going to break? When are we going to see the evidence that it's broken? It's going to be when? What happens?
Do you have any solutions that you'd conjecture?
Oh, I'll get to that, but when's it going to happen? It's going to be when the dollar breaks, right? It's going to be when hyperinflation hits. Like, that's when, you know, that's when it ends.
What did we learn?
What's that?
What have we learned about hyperinflation from guys like Germany or Argentina?
It sucks.
I know.
We haven't learned anything from that. You go to war?
What do you think the odds of us having hyperinflation?
Oh, 100%. The question is when. Because for it not to be 100%, we have to elect leaders who are going to wake up one day and say, financial prudence matters, right? Because let me ask you two questions, right? When does empathy become financial imprudence? And when does financial prudence and austerity become cruelty, right? Right now we live in a world where there is no financial imprudence. But any austerity, is cruelty. Right? We don't manage the tension between caring and long-term sustainability. Like I find it crazy that all I hear about is sustainability, there's got to be sustainability. Except for the financial system, right? Don't give a shit about that, right? You know, like, that can go to hell. I'm gonna keep taking from that piggy bank until that thing breaks. You know, I don't know if you talked about modern monetary theory. I mean, we were keeping up with theories like it doesn't matter, right? We can print as much money as we want. Like, it's all a fiction. And then, like, the fact that MMT exists or was actually thought of seriously, right? It's crazy.
We have a question online.
Yes. Online. What fantastic part of the world are you from? Because I've been all over the world and I have not been to a shithole country yet. Great.
Speaking of shitholes.
Australia is not a shithole country. I just want to say, some of your politics scares me. Some of your politics scares me a bit, and I would not want to get into a bar fight in Australia. I would get my ass kicked, but I do love it. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead. Question.
So I have a question about. So I study economics at one of the top schools in Australia, and if I was interested in going into finance, I could study an undergrad in finance or a master's in finance, which would cost, I mean, not a huge amount compared to America. I'd say it's about it would be about 52,000 Australian for an undergrad, and a master's could be about around there, maybe 60, 70. Or I could do my CFA level 1, 2, and 3, all in all for about probably 10, 15,000 max, depending on how many times, or if I fail. If I am interested in going into finance, is it worth just skipping a university degree and doing my CFA?
So the CFA is a big funder of one of my programs, so I have to be careful. Don't get me in trouble. Love the CFA. I think it's one of the few institutions in finance that's valuable, provides standards, is politically neutral. You know, it's one of those funders I could get with no one saying like, I can't believe you took money from the CFA, right? Like almost anybody I took money from in finance, they're like, you took money from BlackRock, you know, you took money, but CFA is like clean. I'm afraid to give you, I'm gonna give you my honest answer. I would not study finance ever. I mean, I went to business school for 2 years, studied finance, but I knew nothing about finance, so I was starting from zero. And I did it honestly because it was super fun. Like I go, like, okay, let me get this straight. I can go to business school for 2 years, party my ass off, wake up late, play sports, wear shorts, run around, whatever. And then 2 years later, people say, Chris, you bettered yourself. Here's a better job with more pay. And I'm like, that was the best hour. Like, I'm not sure that's true anymore. I think business schools are really losing their luster. I mean, if I did it all over again, I definitely, even though the whole every day, oh, you're studying philosophy? Like, what are you gonna do with that, right? You know, it's like, turns out there's a lot you can do with that. So I don't know, I'm wary of spending a lot of money. Like, I'd rather you go to university and study, you know, anything but finance, honestly. If I did it all over again, I'd probably study, I love anthropologists, right? It's like, every time I like have a debate with somebody and they give me this perspective, I'm like, that's good. And they're like, oh, I was an anthropologist. Like, oh, of course you were, right? Like I'd almost say study anthropology. But, you know, it's easy for me to stand up here and like give you these happy. CFA, I think, is valuable because I think just learning the nuts and bolts of how things works there's value in that. Like no matter what you do, you need to know that, right? Finance is the most important thing. This goes for, you know, from 0 to 4 to 92, whatever the song is. Finance is the most important thing in somebody's life they know the least about, like by far. Like my daughter went to this amazing high school. She learned about everything except money. Can't talk about that. Can't prepare you for a world in finance. You go to college, you don't learn about money, right? So if you're gonna have like fun doing it, do it. Will it be valuable? Sure. I would say that you don't need to do it. If you can afford to do it without too much burden, yeah, I mean, but enjoy it for what it is. You're still gonna have to hustle really hard to get a great job and figure out your way in the world. It's not like the old days where, you know, you went to Wharton, Harvard, Stanford, and like you had 10 job offers, right? It's not the way it's gonna be. Right now, I think these schools are falling out of favor, actually. Like, people are almost looking at you like, wow, like, did you go because you didn't have something? All right.
Thank you.
Yes?
In your book, you recount your days at Salomon. You talk about this laundering story that was later linked back to Escobar. And so I was just wondering, maybe, what was one of the craziest stories that you experienced in all your time that someone on the outside of the industry wouldn't really expect, but like this laundering story you talked about?
Yeah, You know, I'm very lucky because if you run to experience and you like tension points, the other good thing, the reason to do that is you have great stories. Great stories, right? So, you know how you have to like name drop organically? I'm going to, that's what I learned. Did you hear that recently? Like you can only name drop if it's organic. Well, in light of what's happening this weekend, I'll give you a quick one because everyone loves this effing story, right? Everyone's like, oh my God, this game. So, organize a trip. I'm going to tell it too fast. The long version's amazing. Organize a trip for Fortune 10 CEOs, Rupert Murdoch, like just imagine like Fortune 10 CEOs, to go to Russia during White Nights, St. Petersburg, and this was the boondoggle of boondoggles. Boondoggle of boondoggles, like Tsar's box at the ballet, beef stroganoff at the Stroganoff mansion. Like it was, you know, private tour of the Hermitage, like ridiculous. But we had one serious meeting, which wasn't serious, but like one. And it was, this was in 2004, to meet Putin to discuss relationships between the US and Russia on a corporate level, like how we could increase. And this is when we didn't yet know Putin was crazy. So he's still seen as like quasi-legit, okay? So this story is not surprising in some ways now. So one of the CEOs that was there was Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots, right? Who are in the Super Bowl tomorrow if you're not a fan or not following football, which makes me say, oh, okay, I can bring it up because, so we do the meeting, bullshit meeting, nothing happens. We go outside for the photo op and they're taking pictures and Sandy Weil, who's the CEO of Citigroup, says to Vladimir, you should see Bob Kraft's Super Bowl ring. He goes, Bob, show Vladimir your Super Bowl ring. So he takes it off. Vladimir Putin puts it on his hand. And this didn't make, I can give you some quotes, it didn't make the public press. And he goes, wow, you could kill a few Russians with this, right? and he like turns to Bob Kraft, says, thank you very much, and walks away with the ring. And Bob Kraft turns to me and says, this did not make the public domain either. And he says, the commie just stole my ring. And the photographers could not hear what was said, but they could see what was happening. So they're like, what just happened there? Like, what was that? Everyone's freaking out. We go to the chief of staff of Putin. We say, can we have the ring back? It's like, I'm not talking to Vladimir, right? You know, whatever. So first press release goes out by the Patriots saying, we can't find Bob Kraft, we didn't know what happened. Second press release goes out from the Kremlin saying, we appreciate the generosity of Bob Kraft. We are going to display the ring in the Kremlin for all the Russian people to see. So we're sitting in the, and I've written lots of press releases in my life. This is my favorite line I've ever written in my entire life. We're sitting there in the conference room with Bob writing the press release. He goes, you know, pardon my French, fucker stole my ring. Fucker. Put in the press release, a fucker stole my ring, right? And all of a sudden there's a knock on the door saying, Mr. Kraft, the president would like to speak to you. So Bob Kraft goes, okay. So he goes out, comes back, goes, we can't say he stole the ring. I talked to President Bush. President Bush says, chill, Bob. Like, Robert, like, don't make a big deal out of this. So the line that went in the press release was, and I just, sorry, I'm very proud of this writing. As a writer, I'm very proud of this. While not originally intended as a gift, we are honored that the Russian people will be able to appreciate the greatness of the New England Patriots. And as a Patriots fan, I loved writing that sentence. And then 11 years later, I remember where I was. I still had a BlackBerry, and I come out of, I'm in Amsterdam, and I remember looking at my BlackBerry, and I have like 200 emails. I'm like, what's going on? It's all about the ring. I'm like, why am I getting emails about the ring 11 years later? And people are like, oh, you weren't lying. Like, I was lying. Like, you know, it made international. They go, oh, whatever. What happened? So in public, for the first time, Bob Kraft said at a dinner, Putin stole the ring. And then Putin fired back with, I did not steal the ring. And you know why I didn't steal that ring? And I know it's because the ring's a piece of shit, okay? The Russians, we know jewelry, Fabergé, whatever, and that ring is crap. He goes, if he cares so much about a ring, I'll make him a ring that's so much better than this one, right? And it's like, okay, in that story, it's like work in M&A, right? Put together a trip with Fortune 10 CEOs, go to St. Petersburg, meet Putin, God knows, okay, there's an incident, dive in, go like, okay, Bob, what are we gonna write? You know, volunteer to write the press release, you know, be in the room when the president calls, like, you know, it's just like, okay. And now everybody's like, oh, that story is hilarious, right? But that's a glib story, and I picked it because the Super Bowl's tomorrow. But like, then there's all kinds of other stories where it's like, you know, for 10 years, whatever crisis situation. Like I ran Orange County for 1.5 years during the bankruptcy, right? The Oracle PeopleSoft hostile, which is considered is the nastiest hostile takeover in the history of corporate America, right? It's like, just like, I got so many stories because it's like, just run to the thing that's the most volatile, even if it goes terribly. All right. Oh, I think I was gonna do 2 quick things, but it seems I'm at time. What's our situation?
We're okay, we can go.
I just want to give you the 2 most interesting things going on in the world quickly. I'll do it really fast. So the 2 most biggest challenges of the world, in addition to the social safety net, which is part of this, is the 2 big wars that are going on right now. And the biggest war going on, which is part of the topic of today, is who has power. And the power struggle is between government and large technology companies. They're both vying for power. And the government has on its side its 2 monopolies, but it has very bad leadership. And what technology has on its side is it's creating stuff that's controlling the world and creating growth. And it doesn't actually care that much about violence or currency. So one is becoming irrelevant as it holds on to its legacy power, whereas the others are playing a completely different game. And that, now during COVID, what was so strange during COVID, they had an unholy alliance during COVID. It's like government said, I want to lock down and take power, and tech said, yes, you lock down. You know why? Because we create the technology that allows a lockdown. So for a few years, they were teaming up to increase both of their power. Now, what was interesting is that overreach by government definitely had a backlash, and I now think it's hurting them as they lost a lot of trust during that period. Whereas tech definitely accelerated their grasp and control of the social workings. But that war going forward is like going to be the war, right? Like, what world do we live in? What does it look like? You always have to ask the question, I'm part of the Aspen Institute, we always ask the same question, who decides? Whatever question you care about, ask the question, who decides? Less and less governments will be deciding, but they're going to be grasping for that power, and more the large tech leaders are going to be deciding the answers to the really interesting questions. And we're seeing that manifest ourselves in day-to-day life, right? Technology, what is technology? It's that which disintermediates people from the world. Technology is a people replacement, right? So think of your favorite app, and I can tell you how it works because it took people out of the system, right? So so man's purpose, meaning, all of that. AI is the obvious other tension, but we got it all wrong. AI is not going to kill us. That's ridiculous. Might, but that's ridiculous. What it's going to do instead, it's going to take away our humanity, right? And so because it's disintermediating humans, because it's taking us out of the commerce of life, right? Why is commerce so important? Because commerce is what creates the scarcity that forces you to be in activity, that pushes you to your potential, and you were forced to do it because you needed it to survive. Now you don't need that anymore. You're not going to choose it. And so now we're trading challenge, wisdom, and intuition for convenience and safety. And AI is saying, humans, go in that direction. Yes, do that. And so we may not kill us, but we're in the process of trading away our humanity for what? And that's going to be a huge tension. I got to talk about one that gets a lot of attention. I spend a lot of time in China now. The whole China thing is like way overblown, right? It's like a ridiculous actual, it's like, I need to sell fear, uncertainty, and doubt, so let's sell fear of China, right? The interesting thing about China is we're now at war with one another, but it's not a war of like 10 years ago, it was like, oh, we're moral, we're better, right? They're immoral, they do like all these things. Like, it's no longer about morality, which system's more moral. It's literally capitalism on capitalism. Like, this is just the fight of two capitalist systems, but both of our fears are ourselves, right? It's like we're still tied. Like, what happens in China matters to us. What happens to us definitely matters in China, but it's not like China's going to win and America's going to lose, or America's going to win. China is going to blow itself up. America is going to blow itself up. Like, we just talked about how America is going to do it. China's, is not a sustainable system. And so that one's just interesting from a how and who and why are each going to blow up themselves, but it's not going to be because of the competition between the two.
It's like a road runner with two Wile E. Coyotes.
Perfect analogy. I don't know if they know who Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote is, but like, absolutely. Yes?
Just gonna say that all this talk, one of the biggest takeaways that I've had is running toward tension points and all this. So I'm starting to look at flights to Caracas. We have spring break coming up.
Spring break.
That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one because I don't want you to get killed. So, I mean, there are limits. Although, one of the first deals I worked on Wall Street, I was always amazed, like, we did this thing, privatizations, where countries were selling its assets, put it in the private sector. And privatizations usually meant you had to go live in that country for a few months. And people would say, all right, we're doing a privatization in Argentina for the steel mills. Does anyone want to do it? I'm like, no one, everyone else is like, no. And I'm like, why? I get to go to Argentina for 2 months. They're going to pay me and hang out. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, oh, no, I got this place in the Hamptons. Like, I don't want to, like, okay, like, who wants to go to, wherever? And like, who wants to go to Venezuela and privatize their their phone system? I'm like, I'm in, right? So lived in Venezuela in the 91 when Caracas was the most expensive city on earth and burgeoning and, cutting edge, and it was amazing. And then you like see where it went. So the one thing I'll say about going to Venezuela is it's got potential, right? Like, unlike, and I could go on and on about how Venezuela differs from Iraq or anywhere else, but like, at least like, you can say in Venezuela we're returning democracy as opposed we're trying to build it. So I'm 50-50 on going to Venezuela.
Let me know.
Yeah, I'm 50-50.
It means your life is 50-50.
Anything else?
I have another question on Zoom.
Okay, Zoom.
From Australia. Oh, we got a new face.
Australia's showing up. Hi. Anna Sophia.
Yeah.
Oh, Sophia, I
I'm from Brazil.
have one closing comment because of you, because Sophia reminds me. Okay.
It's from the first subject, actually. I work at finance here in Brazil. I work with financial advisory. And since I'm not so young, I'm 27, but since I am a woman and I live in the countryside, it's kind of difficult for me. I'm working in finance like for 5 years. I have like a big opportunity as being associate at my office. But I want to know about you. What do you think it's like, how can you give me an advice, since I am a woman and I'm kind of young, how to approach older people for investments? Do you have some advice?
I do. Once again, I'm like, ooh, do I go here or not? I'm gonna take a little. First of all, I love Brazil, Riverwood Capital. We're like the leading technology investor in Brazil. I've loved my years there. Been all over the country. It's just magnificent. Yeah, I'm also the number one backer of women of any VC I've been told in the world, in terms of backing, women starting businesses. And it's shocking to me how many men come to me and say, "You're nuts. You are crazy. You're going to get blown up. It's only a matter of time before you get blown up, right? Someone is going to take you down." The fear is gigantic. I'm not going to lie to you. Like the thing that surprises me the most is how vocal men are in terms of their fear of backing women. So I will say it's not easy. And then on the other hand, you have the men who really want to back women because, I'm not it's gonna sound inappropriate, but it's not meant to at all. They almost want to be a father, right? They I want to, I want that father, paternalistic daughter. But then you end up in this paternalistic, I'm gonna show you the way. It's not a partnership. And so I hate to say it, but as a woman, you're gonna be navigating those two worlds, and it's not easy. And I will say too, working for women doesn't solve that problem usually. I'm just gonna put it out there, right? And so I would just say, the best thing to do is be very focused and find people that you can work with and you can trust and really value that relationship. You can't do I guess my advice would be, and I apologize, this is a little amorphous, but it's the best advice I can give, and I give it at time. Don't rely on an institution don't think, if I go work for Goldman Sachs, I'm good. You're not. Don't think if I go work at a place that says they care about women, I'm good, I'm not. Make your decisions based on the personal relationship that you have at a very micro level, and don't rely on institutional protections or structures to help you. I wish I could be more positive. It was I'll tell you a story quickly because I think it's indicative. So there was this one year where two companies were going public on the NYSE FIGS, which is, I don't know if you know, it's a high-end scrubs business. It was worth $10 billion at one point. And Nextdoor. And both were run by women. And so I had given the first $1 million to start Figs, and I was, on the board of Nextdoor, and the reporters were interviewing them, and they said, "Who's your mentor?" And they both said me. And so the woman came to me and said, "Who the fuck are you?" Right? Basically like, who are you that you came up twice? So I told her, and then she goes, "What, is this common? Do you have other women?" I said, "Yeah, I got, She goes, "Can I interview them?" And I go, "Sure." And I gave her 20 names, 20 women that I backed. And she's like, "You have 20? I go, "I have 50. And she goes, "Wow." I'm like, "I'm impressed if you have 3, right?" So she calls them all. And she says, like, it was amazing, like truly amazing. But what was interesting about it was 2 things came out of it, which made us both not want to do the article. One is I didn't once say I backed them because they're women. Not once. I refused to say it. She wanted me to say it, I wouldn't say it. I said, "They're great people. I'm back, like, nothing to do with it." And the women said, "He never once made me feel uncomfortable." And I'm like, not once? like I thought, like, how's that gonna come out in the article? Like, if you don't know me, what are you gonna think? Like, oh, this guy doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. Like, he must be whatever, fill in the blank. So the article didn't run. But it shows you, like, how challenging it is to be a woman in finance. I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. Last thing, Sophia, which means means wisdom. Reminds me of all the years studying happiness and working with leaders to try to figure out what matters and what doesn't, the meaning of life, whatever. I come down to G.K. Chesterton, who said, "A sense of wonder is the highest form of wisdom." And it's like, when you cut through it all, stop trying to figure out what it all means and the logic behind it and why we're here. Like, why we're here is to figure out what it means to be curious, to wonder, to learn. So the ultimate, like, happiness, just coming back to the advice, is like, how do I get this sense of wonder and excitement about the world and live with that wonder? And that's where the wisdom comes from. It doesn't come from solving a problem or figuring out the atomic structure, fill in the blank, doesn't matter. Anyway, hope that was helpful. And
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me chat. Thanks for letting me just, when I told you, you said, "What are you going to speak on?" I go, I'm not sure yet. So I knew it would come out of the conversations. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.